But there is, however, a still higher level of conduct. What is your highest and most idealistic principle? As ethical individualists, we have a set of ethical principles and we have specific life situations. Ethics involves applying those principles to life. If you have ever thought about these principles, you might favor some over others. Perhaps you think environmentalism or saving the planet is the most important need for the world. Or maybe it's to feed the poor. Or maybe it's to build a loving community, a global community. Or maybe your highest idealistic principle is to start a settlement on Mars because this planet isn't really going to last that long anyways. In Chapter 9 of the Philosophy of Freedom, under the topic Levels of Morality, this is called moral insight. It's when you understand the reason why a particular principle should motivate you, why it's really important. Moral progress occurs when a person does not simply accept the commandments of an outer or inner authority as a motive for action. We have outer authorities and we also have inner authorities, normally called conscience or inner voice. This can be an inner authority to motivate action. But rather than simply accepting the authority of others or inner authority, he tries to understand the reason why a particular principle of conduct should motivate him. This is to advance from morality based on authority to conduct based on moral insight, which means we have a clear understanding of why a particular principle is important. At this level of morality, a person will consider the needs of a moral life and will let this knowledge determine his actions. Such needs are the greatest possible good of all humanity, the progress of culture. So a person will think about, what is the greatest need of humanity, and how can I fulfill it? Maybe you're a progressive and have become an anti-racist because you believe that that is the most important thing to advance culture, or the realization of individual moral goals that have been grasped by pure intuition. Through moral insight, you've arrived at the highest, most idealistic principle that really motivates you the most and inspires you to act. What can be better than a life driven by our highest idealistic, inspiring motivation? Now that we've arrived at our highest ethical principle, we want to apply it as much as we possibly can to bring about the change that we really believe in. So whoever favors a principle of the common good will first ask in all his actions what his ideals contribute to this general good. Someone who is committed to the ethical principle of the progress of culture will do the same. So we're looking for situations where we can intervene. And in every life situation, there's a possibility that we can do something to stamp out racism. Perhaps it's to save the planet. Every situation, we try to recycle, cut down our energy usage, use environmentally friendly products. Whenever we go to the store, we're looking for the labels to buy those products. Whenever we have an opportunity to donate to a particular charity that fits this highest principle, we do so without hesitation. This highest principle inspires us and we act on it every chance we get, and we feel good about ourselves. But there is, however, a still higher level of conduct that does not start from one particular moral goal in each case, but sees a certain value in all ethical maxims, and in each case asks whether one or another principle is more important. So the philosophy of freedom says, yes, moral insight is great, but we don't want to have a single fixed principle that we end up applying in every situation. It encourages moral insight in each case, which is a real challenge because we really don't have the time to be thinking everything through in each case. That's another issue. I mean, sometimes we need to take the time to think things through before we make a decision. See, that's the convenience of having just a single principle. You figure you arrived at your principle, you're motivated, so your work is done. You don't have to think anymore. You can just operate immediately just off of that single principle. Maybe you did the work, you reasoned it through and came to a conclusion, and now you're done. You're done thinking. You're done reasoning. You're done trying to sort things out, and you just go with that. Or maybe you've just accepted a single principle because that makes you fit in with the group that you surround yourself with. Like we're all environmentalists, we're all whatever, There's a certain bond that occurs within a group when everybody has the same moral principle. But the philosophy of freedom calls for a higher morality. That's saying we have a set of principles, we have a set of life situations, so in each life situation, we want to select the most appropriate principle for that situation. In certain situations, I might regard the progress of culture as right. In others, I may contribute to the common good. And in the third case, furthering my own individual good is the right course. We are responsible for our own lives. We have to take care of ourselves, make sure we get enough sleep and the right diet before we can really move on to help other people. So you might say ethical individualism is the highest and most idealistic principle, in that it sets a very high standard for ethical behavior. So the challenge as an ethical individualist is moral insight in each case. What is the highest and most idealistic principle in each case? Now that's a challenge to strive for. So I think what is to be learned here is to see if we're fixated on one principle that we end up trying to apply everywhere, and see that that's not the highest ethical state to be in. And we might examine, why are we fixated on one particular principle? And then we might look at, okay, throughout daily life, how am I able to make a quick assessment to be able to act morally through moral insight? Since I don't have time to just stop life throughout the day and go into a deep, pure reasoning situation, how am I able to come to moral insight? Or is it something that I do at the end of the day? I review the day and take a look at the decisions I made and learn from that. Or do I even prepare ahead of the day? Do I think things through? These are things that we can work out or should be reflecting about. How to bring more moral insight into more life situations.